Fantastic. All right, here we are. Welcome. We are live from the Varro podcasting studios in our operational HQ of Cleveland, Ohio. So very excited to be doing this today. Thank you all for joining. Very excited to present, sort of set the record straight here on the industry and discuss the next generation of inspection technology, what we've been building over the better part of a decade and what's been available and what clients are using today to solve, really some of the biggest challenges in the industry when it comes to the annual mortgage inspection process. So again, I want to thank you all for coming. Hope you get a lot out of this and to keep things rolling here. Wanted to kick off before we get into the heart of today's conversation. I really want to walk you guys through what we'll be covering. So a brief agenda. First, we're going to start out with some brief introductions, including a special guest who's going to be joining us later in the session. So very excited about that. From there, we're going to move into a state of the union, right? We're really looking to explore the current industry landscape. Want to highlight a lot of the macro trends, pressures, disconnects, things like that are affecting lenders, servicers, inspectors, borrowers, inspection vendors, really, the whole universe of the industry. After that, we're going to want to take a closer look at some of the historical challenges and walk through how Varro specifically directly addresses each phase of the inspection lifecycle. And this is a theme that's going to be sort of consistent, from start to finish in the presentation, which are sort of, we call them the four pillars of the inspection process. So starting from initiation into management, into the execution of the inspections, and then all the way through, we're complete, the data, the delivery of the reports, and all of the really exciting stuff in our opinion. So we'll walk you through that. Then we're going to want to shift after we've had our presentation and discussed how Varro has solved those problems and built technology to address those challenges, and really discuss the ROI of modernizing, right? We really want to take a look at both like the near-term benefits and also the future potential that can be unlocked by digitizing and standardizing inspection workflows. And hopefully that leads you all to some amazing key takeaways about, what we're currently doing to solve these issues, all the technology that's currently available to solve these issues. And then after that, finally, we're excited to transition into sort of the final component into our Q&A session with Kelli Burke of the Mortgage Bankers Association. So she's going to be sharing the MBA's perspective, on where the industry is headed and how we can collectively, move these things forward, both between the MBA and groups like Varro that are really pushing to drive the industry ahead. Sorry, I'm losing my voice already. All right. Quick intros. So meet the speakers. First, elephant in the room. That picture of me is 10 pounds ago and a full head of hair ago. We've already talked to our marketing team. That's going to be updated in the next week. That being said, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joe Marino. I am the co-founder and CEO of Varro. I'm also incredibly excited to be joined by Kelli Burke, like I previously mentioned. She is the Vice President of Commercial Multifamily Finance at the Mortgage Bankers Association. Kelli leads the strategic direction, program development, and member engagement for MBA's, all of MBA's commercial real estate finance division. Again, I've said this once, I'll say it probably 20 more times during this webinar. We are extremely grateful to have her with us today so that she can help provide broader industry perspective and share more, again, about what the MBA is doing to support modernization across our space. All right. Sticking with introductions, for who are we? Who is Varro, right? How are we, people that deserve to be talking about this? And so for those of you who may be new to Varro, we are a purpose-built technology company. We are focused on modernizing commercial loan servicing. Our mission is extremely simple, right? We're looking to bring efficiency, transparency, and really standardization to every aspect of loan servicing through intelligent, connected tech tools. Today, as it stands, we have multiple solutions that support a wide range of critical workflows in the space. So we've got multiple products including inspection management and automation, which we're going to discuss today. We also have an annual financials analysis borrower reporting tool that standardizes and automates that entire collection of operating statement, borrower reporting. We also have a disaster monitoring tool for lenders and loan servicers to monitor their assets. If any disaster comes, they're immediately notified and can push out inspections through our technology immediately to follow up. And we also even have boots on the ground inspection services through our nationwide network. Point being, we've got a lot of stuff. If you're interested in any of that, there's going to be contact information at the end of this. Please feel free to follow up if you have any interest in those. But, realistically and overall as a company, every product that we've built is a result of direct collaboration with the lenders and the servicers that we've worked with over the past decade, right? So our goal and where we remain deeply committed is to solving the real operational challenges that the industry faces. Again, for today's session, we're going to focus specifically on the annual inspection process. And we want to take a closer look specifically at the suite of products and tools that Varro's created and developed to help streamline and modernize it and really solve a lot of the challenges and bottlenecks in the industry. All right. Industry landscape. All right, so let's begin by taking a look at the industry challenges and landscape really from a macro perspective. So whether you're a lender, a servicer, an inspector, a borrower, an inspection vendor, the reality is the annual mortgage inspection process is plagued by complexity, fragmentation. Each of those stakeholders uses different systems. They follow different processes. They have varying requirements. Lenders often customize their inspection requirements or they'll rely on the MBA standard framework, while servicers can also introduce, their own operational layers. Inspectors then in turn must remember and adapt to the nuances of each client, and borrowers frequently face really the same inconsistent demands or requests for documentation. All of that being said, the result is a system with high friction, right? It's fragmented, it's inefficient, it's duplicative. All of these efficiencies translate into wasted time. We all know it, sunk labor costs, and most critically, elevated compliance risks, right? And let's talk about the annual inspection and what we're actually trying to accomplish. The core objective of the annual inspection is pretty simple, right? It's risk mitigation. It's to confirm the asset is being maintained at a high level and is performing adequately. But with so many disparate processes, really achieving that objective in a scalable way, in a consistent way, becomes nearly impossible. One of the greatest challenges is driving alignment across stakeholders, right? Lenders may have unique risk sensitivities, and while that's understandable, it does complicate standardization. Fortunately, and we'll talk about this towards the end as well. Fortunately, the MBA has done excellent work in creating a comprehensive inspection standard. It balances risk identification. It's a valuable tool for data capture. It really gives us a fantastic starting point. But still, and this is what we're talking about today, is true industry progress really requires a shared system of record, right? A unifying technology that enables everyone to work from the same playbook, right? And that's where we collectively begin to solve not just the micro problems that we discuss and that we'll talk about today, but really the root structural issues in our ecosystem and in our industry as a whole. All right. So now that we've sort of taken a step back, we've looked at the macro, examples and challenges in the industry. We want to dive in and provide some specific examples. So again, I want to zoom in right now and first on the lender experience. And I want to specifically, look at the inspection process lifecycle. I want to look at its current inefficiencies. So while individual lenders, and again, we've been working with lenders for the better part of a decade, while individual lenders may vary slightly in their processes, the broader theme that we've learned across the industry is a highly manual, fragmented, and error-prone workflow. So again, these are the four components. We typically break this down into four components here. We've already discussed the initiation, management, execution, and data delivery. So in breaking these components of the inspection process apart, let's dive in and look at some of the challenges on initiation first. So first thing, lenders must first define their inspection requirements, right? Do they use the MBA standard? Do they make customizations? Regardless of what choice is made, that's followed by some internal coordination that happens to package those requirements, often as lengthy documentation, which then must be distributed to servicers and vendors. So this limits the ability to make updates during the year, but also puts a massive burden on recipients, on the servicers and inspectors to interpret and execute all of those accurately. Next, lenders will identify which loans need inspected, right? Something that sounds simple. They compile lists, typically in spreadsheets, but those are often just emailed to servicers, right? And once those spreadsheets are sent, tracking progress becomes nearly impossible day to day. Once the initiation happens and it's set up, we really shift into the management component. And so, even when lenders are using portals that are mostly just basic file drop boxes, there's little to no visibility into scheduling, fieldwork progress, or even any real-time issues. So what lenders are forced to do is manually track what's been submitted, approved, or flagged, usually in offline spreadsheets. If there's a quality issue that lenders encounter, it requires a separate manual communication loop with no structured resolution process as it stands. Moving ahead to the execution component, even as a lender, even though lenders, maybe aren't necessarily performing their own inspections, it's vastly important how the execution of the inspection is performed. So if there's no system of proof for when and how an inspection was conducted, right? In some cases, and we've had conversations, lenders have caught instances of photo reuse from previous years, an obvious, risk and an obvious fraud. Without secure real-time field data, oversight is extremely limited. Moreover, lenders can't easily ensure that critical questions, especially ones they prioritized, are being answered. So even things that seem really small, right, like incomplete inspection forms or skipped fields, can obviously introduce massive compliance risk, let alone all of the operational burden of ensuring that they're collecting and getting the data they need. Excuse me. So on to the last, pillar here of the lender perspective challenges. It's data and delivery, right? So once the inspections have been completed, once inspections are returned, most lenders then rely on staff to manually open reports and review them, right? They're going to then key in relevant data into their servicing platforms. Obviously, this process is not only time consuming, but it's extremely error prone. Simple things like file naming conventions, right? Ensuring that the files are named correctly. Document storage, structured data extraction are usually completely unmanaged. In many cases, lenders are either doing this or managing this manually, or to be completely honest, we've spoken with a lot of lenders that aren't doing any of this at all. They're just storing it away and hoping nothing goes wrong, right? These inefficiencies, they obviously compound and introduce risks, not just to operation, but again, more importantly, to regulatory compliance and to mitigating the risk within our portfolios. And really, that's what we're going to tackle in the meat of this conversation, is how Varro is addressing these problems directly. And again, in this case, specifically looking at the lender perspective. But again, before we get into that, we'll shift kind of and let's put our servicer caps on and take a look at the perspective from a servicer, right? Again, we approach all these problems holistically. We think that's the best way to look at it. So even if you are a lender on this, I implore you to put on your servicer cap and think like them to help make them more efficient as well. But now shifting to the servicer perspective, look, while many of the challenges overlap across stakeholders, servicers face honestly a particularly unique burden due to the volume and due to the diversity of lender relationships they manage. So going back to the 4 pillars here, starting with initiation, servicers must handle multiple sets of requirements for each lender they work with, right? Each with their own forms, expectations, delivery protocols, points of contact. Honestly, what we've learned is internally, most teams don't have inspection-specific tools, maybe just general purpose servicing systems or tracking mechanisms, but something as simple as assigning inspections can be messy and ambiguous. Compounding this is, let's be real here and let's get really real, is an industry-wide truth. Servicing contracts and fee structures have largely remained flat, right? Even as costs across the board, labor, tech, compliance, everything else has gone up, right? At the same time, the scope of what's being expected from servicers has grown exponentially, right? They're being requested to collect more documentation, more compliance oversight, more customization per lender, all contribute to that pressure, right? Think about things as easy, it seems simple. Onboarding and training adds to the complexity, right? When lender requirements change annually and internal team members can come and go, there's a constant need for servicers to retrain staff on process, on standards, on forms, and on expectations. If we, kind of shift in looking at the management phase here, servicers often rely on, just like the rest of the industry, siloed spreadsheets and informal tracking methods to monitor progress, right? This obviously creates gaps in visibility. Managers can't see portfolio level inspection status. Individual team members may be unclear on what they're responsible for. Again, without a shared system of record, accountability suffers. It's just the truth. Servicers also struggle with quality control, right? Whether they're performing their own inspections or if vendors are being utilized, their internal teams must review submitted inspections, not only to review for quality, but review against lender-specific requirements, which often deviate from the MBA standard, rating scales, field requirements, even inspection criteria vary widely, right? Creating added confusion. When we look at the execution phase, the same pain points persist, right? Many inspections, let's be real, are still being conducted using digital cameras or phones, hopefully at this point, but still with photos and notes manually compiled and then copy and pasted into Excel templates. These templates are often bloated with a lot of macros, which are difficult to use or share efficiently. Moreover, if an inspector is completing, let's say, multiple inspections being performed in a day, inspectors must later recall site details and ensure proper documentation, right? It's a process that can obviously be time consuming, but it's extremely prone to error. In cases where follow-up is needed on deferred maintenance or repair verifications, inspectors often lack access to that past information, specifically in the field, when it should be, most relevant and most important to them. And then finally, really getting to the end of this and talking about data and delivery, servicers, just like lenders, must manually review these reports, key in data points into their servicing systems. So tracking same things, details like occupancy, deferred maintenance, or follow-up. On top of that, they must also then remember each of those lenders' preferred submission methods, right? Formatting expectations, delivery nuances. Ultimately, again, if we really look at the 4 pillars and what we've just discussed, the major challenge for servicers is a lack of standardization across both system and requirements, right? And this inconsistency leads to inefficiencies, risk, and then obviously it leads to a growing operational burden, all while, like we discussed previously, the economics of servicing continue to tighten up. A moment, so I can sip my tea. All right, moving along. So we also wanted to make sure, before we move in to how Varro specifically addresses the challenges that were just discussed, we do want to briefly touch on, a few other key stakeholders that we haven't fully covered in the core lender and servicer, examples, and namely borrowers, inspectors, and then inspection vendors, right? And I mentioned this before, and again, the themes are consistent throughout, but at Varro, our approach is holistic. We believe the only way to fix the annual inspection process is to bring everyone into one cohesive ecosystem, right? And that includes lenders, servicers, borrowers, inspectors, vendors, all working off of the same system of record. So if we look at some of these challenges with the additional stakeholders here, and we start off with, let's say, the borrower experience, right? Excuse me. The borrower experience is often fragmented, right? So depending on lender, borrowers may be asked for different types of supplemental documentation. submitted through various channels, some digital, some manual. It sounds really funny, but in some cases, we've still heard of people manually mailing in rent rolls and documents, right? Being physically mailed. Point being is with all of these ways, channels, requests, requirements, we believe the borrowers need an easy, intuitive tools to know exactly what's required, right? When inspections are scheduled and how to submit documents directly tied to the inspection. So there's no guesswork, there's no mismatch, there's no follow-up, no manual follow-up required. Then, and I know we discussed inspectors in the field a little bit, but I wanted to key on it here as well. Look, inspectors in the field, let's be real, if we want better data and we want better compliance outcomes, we must make the inspectors' jobs easier. And that means giving them tools, giving them mobile tools that can capture photos and data in real time on site with mobile applications that automatically align with lender form requirements, whether that's the MBA or custom, right? We've built it, and we'll show you a little bit later what that looks like. And finally, moving off of the individual inspector in the field, I really want to touch on inspection vendors. Look, they are a critical part of this ecosystem. And we've talked and worked with all the vendors in the space, and we fully respect the fact that vendors have their own systems, right? They have their own networks, they have their own operational processes and their own invoicing platforms, right? While they can absolutely utilize Varro as a tool to be more efficient, we're not here to change that, right? We're here to provide a holistic solution for everyone. So instead, Varro, we've made a deliberate choice, right, to support vendor integration. We've built out customer-facing APIs so vendors can connect directly to the Varro platform without disrupting their internal processes. So, look, if a vendor wants to modernize with us while maintaining control over their tech stack, we're ready to collaborate, no disruption, just connection. Again, wanted to bring these stakeholders into this so that there was context here on sort of the entire universe of the inspection process. I hope that was good context, but next, I want to jump in and explore how Varro supports these roles more deeply. But again, at a high level, know this, Varro, we've built a platform that works with the industry, not against it, right? We've accounted for all of these stakeholders. A couple transition slides here before we get into Varro. I wanted to, look, we've walked through the current state of the industry. We've talked about pain points faced by all of the stakeholders. Again, want to transition into how Varro's tackling these and how we've tackled these problems head on. I do want to say at a top level, look, at its core, this is about solving the problems of the past, right? All the manual bottlenecks, all of the fragmented systems, all of the compliance risks, the outdated workflows, and really pushing to move the industry forward with purpose-built technology that's built with this industry and this industry alone in mind. So in the next section, we're going to break down how Varro streamlines each phase of that inspection process. So we'll bring back the theme of initiation, management, execution, and delivery. We'll also talk about how our platform uses automation, integrations, and intelligent workflows, to unify all stakeholders and remove friction across the board. So one more, little transition slide here just to showcase, give you guys a visual on the inspection process lifecycle, and then also just some screenshots to showcase the product. And there will be more screenshots in there to showcase the product as well as we talk about the individual components. But again, wanting to showcase the fact that we have a fully built platform that's mobile, native mobile, that's mobile responsive, with web-based portals as well that are accessible through any device, any browser at any point in time. We've made it completely accessible regardless of, who, what, when, where, or why. So anyway, introducing, the Varro portal, and let's go ahead and jump right in. All right. So again, start with initiation here. So when we think back to the challenges tied to initiating the inspection process, especially across stakeholders like lenders and servicers, the Varro platform starts with one core principle, and that's transparency. For lenders, Varro provides immediate access to all industry standard forms, right? Including every version of the MBA's inspection template. In fact, the most recent 4.03 version that was live, that became live last month, it was already active and live in the system just a few days after they announced. If a lender chooses to use the MBA default, it's ready to go. But lenders also have full flexibility to create their own customized versions. For example, and this is a great example, I think, one of our lender partners they utilized the MBA template, but they added a question about cannabis use related or cannabis usage on the property, right? Something that's not necessarily covered in the standard MBA form, but because of internal compliance restrictions, they needed to ask that question. Well, as soon as they brought that to our attention, within, I think it was maybe 3 minutes total from start to finish, they were able to add that custom question, make it required, and ensure that it was enforced at submission. They also did not have to send out any sort of communication to their network because it was all communicated automatically through the Varro platform. Lenders they can define exactly what fields are required, right? So there's a difference between choosing the form and a template that they want and also selecting and choosing required fields. The idea there is we want to eliminate incomplete submissions. With Varro, there is no ambiguity. The required fields can be set by the lender, and it's all communicated effectively through the platform. All expectations from special instructions to form logic, everything is automatically visible across the entire ecosystem to anyone who's working on or related to the inspection process or that particular inspection. If we look at, in sticking with initiation, if we look at from the servicer's perspective, it's also equally powerful, right? Think about this. Rather than having to juggle dozens of different templates or requirements for multiple lenders, Varro enables servicers to simply, select the lender when uploading or creating an inspection, or if the lender assigns it to them, they'll know implicitly that lender's requirements are there based on the fact that it's built into the system. The system automatically applies the appropriate requirements and templated versions, eliminates all guesswork and manual matching, obviously drastically reduces the need for ongoing team training as requirements consistently evolve, right? We think it's fine and it's great that the requirements evolve. That's always going to happen, but creating a standardized system and technology that allows you to control that gives you the ability to still maintain some of the old information or data while you're still progressing into the future and asking for new or updated information that might be relevant. I think I mentioned this a little bit before, but there's still no need for separate emails, spreadsheets, or PDF packets to communicate any requirements, right? Varro ensures everyone, internal staff, vendors, even borrowers, see exactly what's expected right from the start. And again, we talk about initiation. It's our system is built to be flexible, right? While everyone has a general consistent flow, Varro's designed to meet clients where they are, right? So whether that's a full API integration, whether that's a CSV import or export, or even whether that's manual loan creation, the goal that we have is to support any internal workflow while automating assignments and expectation setting across the entire network, right? So even if your team's not quite there, your internal systems as a lender or servicer aren't quite there, Varro enables you to create a modern foundation for a better, faster, and more consistent inspection process moving forward. Let's see, I think that's all I got on that one. I'm gonna go ahead and move forward. All right, getting into management. All right, so once inspection requirements have been defined, inspections have been assigned out, what comes next is where many organizations run into serious bottlenecks, and that's the managing of the inspections. In our opinion, this is where the Varro platform truly shines, right? By bringing together all of those stakeholders in the same system, Varro enables full visibility into the inspection process, from delegating to scheduling to execution to review. For example, Varro has assignment logic that is role aware. And what I mean by that is a lender can assign a block of inspections to a servicer, and that servicer will then obviously will only see what's relevant to them. But at a lender level, full portfolio visibility remains intact. Also, at any time, any authorized user, can log into Varro and see real-time dashboards. So showing inspection statuses, upcoming deadlines, borrower activity, field progress. I mean, literally As inspectors in the field perform the inspections, their data and photos populate the system in real time, allowing teams to stay completely aligned and reduce uncertainty 100%. Internally, Varro also functions as a centralized source of truth, right? So there's no more tracking statuses in spreadsheets, emailing updates between teams. Teams can run reporting even by week, month, quarter, year, custom periods to monitor activity, ensure compliance timelines are being met. Also, with the management, teams have the ability to build custom workflows. We can enable teams to route inspections through internal QA processes before they're submitted back to lenders. So that can include, assigning QA checkpoints, manager approvals, automated status updates. All of this exists within the ecosystem. The platform also handles exceptions, right? So as inspections are waived, loans are paid off, assets have been sold, when those changes occur, they're automatically reflected and all impacted users are notified in the app in real time. So again, there's no need to send additional external messages or track these things manually outside of the system. And when we talk about management, one of the most impactful features really for long-term management of the inspections and inspection data is Varro's inspection history tracking. So as inspections occur year after year, our system not only stores that information, but retains all of the static data year over year. So one, it's built to make your servicers, your teams more efficient to not have to key in static property information or data, right? Help them out, make them more efficient, get them to do a better inspection. But more importantly, in our opinion, that also includes deferred maintenance comments from previous inspections, safety concerns, repair verifications, right? The idea is we'll give them access to all of the relevant information to ensure that field teams and reviewers always have access to those past insights as you continue to perform the inspections year over year. Finally, and just another last point to show the flexibility here, if a lender decides to update inspection requirements mid-cycle, there's also no disruption, right? Existing data, because it's a data-driven system and not siloed into spreadsheets, that data can be retained, right? In progress inspections don't have to start from scratch. Everything's versioned and handled intelligently within the platform. The result of this and what we've done is every stakeholder operates from a shared real-time environment where updates, assignments, communication, and compliance are centralized and trackable without having to rely on email threads or offline documents. Sorry, just checking my notes to make sure I got everything there, and I think we're good there. All right. Now let's go ahead. We'll shift and we'll talk a little bit about the execution phase. This phase is a little different. We want to separate this into a few distinct components that you'll see here on screen. So let's start out with pre-inspection coordination. In many cases, pre-inspection is where delays and miscommunications begin. That's why Varro has built a fully integrated, what we call the Request for Information portal, or as you see it there, the RFI portal, which allows inspectors to coordinate directly with the borrowers without ever leaving the system. So what happens is, using Varro, an inspector can send a secure lender-specific link to the borrower to collect required documentation, and that can include, again, depending on the requirements, we built all of this based on the MBA, but that can include rent rolls, O&M plans, capital expenditures, management interviews, whatever it is, you name it, it's in there. The lender defines, or the servicer, depending on who's creating this, defines what's needed, and the inspector simply clicks a button to initiate the process. Borrowers then upload documents or complete questionnaires directly through this secure link. The inspector can also set automated reminders so they don't need to keep pinging or emailing the borrowers if needed. There's also automations set in the system so that they can escalate alerts to managers if a borrower is unresponsive or not giving them the information they need, right? It's all built into the system. And the cool thing is every interaction is logged. So you can see exactly when the borrower opens the link, uploads a document, submits a form. But the really cool part is when this is completed by the borrower, all of this data automatically attaches to the relevant inspection in Varro. Everything is digitized, organized for downstream review and delivery. Now, shifting gears, right? We've set up the inspection, we've collected all of the pre-inspection questionnaires, information, data. Now on to the on-site execution, excuse me. Varro has built a native mobile application, so available on both iOS and Android, that allows inspectors to capture everything in real time. So they can view custom instructions, they can see previous deferred maintenance items, they can take photos that automatically attach to the inspections, they can fill out required questions and forms. Even in remote areas, our app is designed to work offline. So it saves all of the photos that are captured or data locally, and then we'll auto sync all of that information and all of those photos back as soon as service is restored or as soon as you have access to Wi-Fi. Point being is, we've been doing this for a while and we've thought through sort of all of the components of what's necessary. It's there, it's built, and it's built to make the inspectors as efficient as humanly possible on site. Cool thing is, outside of the application, after the site visit, inspectors can also switch gears and move to the web-based portal to finalize the inspection. So in addition to the mobile views, they also can see their data and photos being displayed in a form layout that mirrors the lender's requirements, right? So whether that's custom or whether that's the MBA template, they can work on a mobile and then they can come back and view it in the context that they're going to be delivering it to their lenders. Look, importantly, once they get to the point where things are completed and done, the execution is guided by validation rules. So inspectors cannot submit their inspections unless all required fields have been completed, right? And think about it, if we kind of start to connect all of these things, this enforcement is based on those requirements that were set during the initiation process, right? So again, it's all tied together. Again, depending on the workflow configured by the lender or servicer, which we customize, we can work with you on. Submissions can automatically trigger a QA review or initiate the final delivery process. But regardless of the workflow or how you specifically work, the end goal of the execution of the inspection in Varro is simple. Make inspectors more efficient, reduce back and forth manual components, and produce the highest quality inspections possible without friction. That's about it there. All right, cool. So stick with me. We're almost there. We only got a couple more slides left, and then we'll shift gears a little bit. But rounding things out. Look, we've gone through the first three stages. Right now, the inspection has been completed. It's passed all validations. We arrive sort of at the final, and in our opinion, arguably the most valuable stage, which is data and delivery. Right. This is where Varro really flexes its power. This is where we really differentiate ourselves from just like a standard, Excel template. Because inspections are executed and completed entirely within a structured system, we can finally move away from siloed spreadsheets and into a digitized and automated workflow that connects directly with your core platform. So we're going to break this down into a few components here, into three components. First thing we'll talk about is report delivery, right? So once an inspection is finalized, Varro can automatically deliver a copy of that individual inspection report via or PDF, Word, Excel, whatever format your workflow requires. It can deliver it via API to any connected system, right? And that includes commercial cloud storage platforms or even any custom-built internal system that has the API capability. Again, delivery isn't just one size fits all. We'll meet you where you're at. You also, though, through Varro, have the ability to configure to auto name files using your preferred naming conventions. And then we can deliver them to specific folders. The idea then is even once those files are delivered to your core systems, Varro makes it easy for you to also set up automations for storage and organization. Moving on to the next component here, beyond the formatted individual inspection reports, Varro also enables you to extract and deliver the structured inspection data directly into your servicing system. No more keying things in manually, right? So whether you need occupancy, ratings, deferred maintenance notes, life safety flags, Varro has the ability to push that data into your system in real time, and also has the ability in Varro in platform to report on any of that data. So we can flag you and let you know, the 100 inspections that were completed this month, here are the 10 that have deferred maintenance, so that it can all be tracked, and follow-up can be tracked within Varro. All of this, though, data delivery, especially in between systems, can be done, like I mentioned before, via API, CSV upload. We offer flexibility for custom integrations, but regardless, you know, the result of all of this is fewer hours spent manually keying in data. And then obviously, since we're not manually keying in data, there's less error, and it's way more reliable information, giving you the ability to have more timely insights, especially directly in your core platforms. The next thing here, and this is something that I'll say we've tagged you know, this review by exception concept. So automated review, or what we call review by exception. And to us, you know, this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg, but this is where things get really exciting when you talk about a digitized system that's all consolidated, where you can actually realize, you know, true automation. So right now, because all inspection data is now structured and centralized, Varro allows you, the client, to define risk-based review rules, right? So for example, you know, you can set the platform to automatically flag and notify your team if, let's say, occupancy drops below 60%, if there's an MBA rating of 4 or 5 that's recorded, if there's any life safety or deferred maintenance that's been flagged or reported, right? Everything else, like inspections with clean reports, with good ratings, with no red flags, can be automatically reviewed, delivered, and filed away without any human intervention or interaction. The idea here is, in a data-driven format, it gives you the ability to give your team back their time, right? And focus specifically, which lets them prioritize what actually needs their attention. And again, this concept and this thing that we've sort of come up with, we call this review by exception. Finally, the same API-driven data structure also benefits inspection vendors, right? For vendors that aren't using the platform to its full capability, for vendors that are using their own system, Varro supports two-way integrations through customer-facing APIs. So they can plug in, they can contribute, and they can deliver efficiently without changing their internal workflows. So again, looking at all of these things we just discussed, and in short, you know, Varro doesn't just digitize inspections, it delivers actionable insight right where you need it, right? Fully automated and truly fully industry connected, which is all we've been trying to solve for the industry. All right. So we've gotten through, you know, everything about, you know, a very top level macro. We've gotten into some micro challenges that lenders and servicers and the other stakeholders are going through. I wanted to include, and we've gotten through obviously how Varro solved those problems. I did want to include this slide, not only to show you what's already possible, but to start planting the seeds for what's coming next. You know, look, what we just presented within Varro, the technology that was just presented is not theoretical. All of that technology, all of those automations, all of those integrations are available and have been available through Varro for the past 5 years. And we've spent the better part of a decade building out that system with our partners on both the lending and the servicing side of things. So while that stuff is all available today, I also want to point out that what you're looking at on screen from a future technology standpoint, these also aren't just theoretical, right? These are being used in other industries to automate inspections, to reduce costs, to generate richer and more accurate data. And we're very aware, and we've got a lot of great plans, but things like drone imaging, right? AI photo scanning, embedded sensors, digital twins, right? These technologies all can drastically and radically reshape how we approach the inspection process in our space. But I point these out and I bring this up now because here's the reality. None of these innovations will ever gain traction in our industry until we move beyond spreadsheets and disconnected processes, right? We have to start with data standardization and a unified digital infrastructure. And that's exactly what Varro has built, right? This is our foundation. This is what unlocks true automation. This is what enables deeper insight. And ultimately, it's what allows us to evolve beyond the labor intensive models that we've all been stuck with for the past 20, 30, 40 years and move ahead. And also, just to set the stage, we're already exploring a follow-up webinar, hopefully in collaboration with the MBA. We'll see what Kelli says here shortly, but to do a deep dive into these technologies and discuss honestly how they can responsibly and realistically be applied in the commercial real estate annual inspection process. So consider this a preview. Here's where we're headed as an industry. But again, it only happens if we commit to taking that first digital step. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, to close things out, I want to leave you with a few takeaways. We'll make this quick so we can hop into the Q&A portion. First thing, look, it's about time. Varro now helps you eliminate manual processes, removes repetitive communication, redundant workflows. We're helping teams operate with greater efficiency, and in turn, that's leading to a real cost savings, right? But it's not just about doing things faster. It's about doing them smarter, right? Through real-time validation, configurable alerts. Like, we're here to help you identify issues before they become problems. It's all risk avoidance, right? It's baked directly into Varro and into the system. Our platform, again, is built to break down silos. So by centralizing inspection data, making it interoperable across systems, we unlock insights and drive better portfolio planning, and we have more proactive decision-making that's possible. That's the data advantage. And then finally, Varro is built to help you stay ahead, right? Everyone should be focused on being a pioneer in this space. Our mission is to move the industry forward by creating a unified and standardized inspection ecosystem that delivers value to every stakeholder involved. Again, none of this is theoretical. This technology exists today. Varro has spent the last 10 years doing this. This platform is a direct result, and I want to make sure we say this, of feedback from our clients and from our partners over the past decade. It's battle tested, it's purpose built for real world adoption. And again, as a company, our goal we're focused on, we're committed to, and we're here to help drive efficiency, transparency, and progress in this industry. So that being said, take a moment to thank everyone for joining us. Really appreciate your time. I've been talking a lot. We've been going at it. So take a deep breath. I will cut my portion off here at this point in the presentation. I'm incredibly honored to be joined by Kelli Burke, so Vice President of Commercial Real Estate, Commercial Multifamily Finance. Kelli, thank you not just for joining the webinar, but for your ongoing leadership, involvement, and helping shape the future of our industry. Your work and the MBA's work more broadly has been foundational in promoting tech adoption, pushing for greater consistency. I appreciate it. And before we jump into audience questions that have come in, I know John, you've got those teed up. I want to pass things over to you, Kelli, to share a few thoughts, if you could, on how the MBA is thinking about some of the industry concerns and challenges we discussed. What are you seeing across the broader market in terms of adoption trends, efforts, areas of opportunity, and honestly, what role does the MBA see itself playing in helping stakeholders navigate these transitions? So I'll stop now, but thank you again, and thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to everyone who's joined the webinar. This is what we're here for, to help spread this information and supporting our members. So thank you for the invitation. Looking at the industry, specifically to property inspection forms, we lean into all of you. We're leaning into the lenders and the servicers and vendors of service providers like Varro to let us know, where can we help? What do you need us to lean into? I know one question was, how do we initiate the changes to something? And it's really all of you bringing a need. That the most recent changes to the inspection form were really prompted from the need to redefine and look at the definitions for the ratings and how are they best aligned. And then the next quick turnaround that we had for the next update was then how do we align the fields, because we had Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae come together and say we're going to use one template. And I think that's a product of collaboration, and that's what we're seeing across the industry is coming in saying how do we make things more efficient, how can we get decisions made and streamline. But I think a lot of us are also wondering how do we prep for AI. So I enjoyed the part about talking what's the future going to look like with these technologies. Overall, we're still working through the various items that are coming through the new administration, and then also any type of regulatory requirements. So again, if the form requires changes from Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, or even yourselves, and saying, how do we streamline this and work with the industry? I think in our prep, we also talked, Joe, about how do we get industry-wide adoption? And that's very important to us at the MBA, is making sure that we're providing a forum that you all can come together and we can hear about the various tools, and then how do we streamline this? And so with that, there are so many things we can talk about, but I am excited. This is like hot off the presses. This week, we're actually launching a commercial technology council, and I talked with our advisory group today or yesterday, and we're actually going to launch a bi-weekly tech talk. So I think the forums like this are where all of you can come together with us, and we talk about the needs, and we talk about the risks and the adoption, and how do we streamline and digitize so it's not a heavy lift or a huge disruption to your integrated systems. Because as a former IT person myself, I sit back and think, how does this impact the MBA's membership, and how do we, get that integrated, these processes, these tools integrated? While that's not the MBA's full focus, I do think about those things for all of you as we talk about technology and AI and the drones. A lot of that is about safety and feeling comfortable with those things. So love to just jump right into questions and see what you guys would like to hear from me.
Great. Thanks so much, Kelly. Thanks, Joe. I'm going to help moderate some of the question and answer here. So we did have a handful come in advance as we were marketing the webinar. We had several lenders and servicers reach out, and participants asking questions in advance. So we have a handful there, but if anything comes top of mind from what Kelly's overviewed or what Joe's overviewed, please do feel free to use the question and answer function here within the platform. So Kelly, I think a handful of these would probably be good for you to speak to from your sort of agnostic point of view here. So I guess what industry changes prompt new versions of the standard inspection form is a question that had come through.
Perfect. Again, most recently we looked at the rating definitions and realigned some of those. I worked with Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae on what their requirements were, and to make sure that we were aligned, and some of the fields were redefined. So as the members, the users of the form, see a need for change, the question how it happened was really members reached out to me and said, MBA, we need you to get involved. We need to talk about the form. The form hadn't been updated in approximately 5 to 6 years prior to 3.01. And then with this latest version, while we were doing that, the first update, we realized, there's a few more fields that we need to talk through and align, but let's talk about the rating definitions first, and then kind of planning that out. So we do get the prompt for change from feedback directly from our members.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Another question that had come through in advance was related to, again, high-level industry. So Kelly, this would probably be a good one for you. But how does the industry move towards a future where the majority of lenders adopt the most recent requirements. So again, that's that timing component.
Yeah. And that's where we are. And Joe mentioned it's like, the announcement came and there was the form. Sometimes it does move that fast because we do want to get it out there, but we understand that the multiple forms are in use, and we understand that your organizations, it takes time to switch over. I think to how do we help with the adoption across the industry, the creation of a talk forum where we can bring tech conversations together and partner with the industry, our members, other vendors for widespread education. So everyone knows there is a new form coming, and then we have a session and we share, here are the changes. So I think we can definitely build upon that and kind of draw a line in the sand, but the MBA can't necessarily do that. But how, as the industry, when we're communicating and educating, identify a timeline for adoption and making sure that we have the buy-in. And part of that is making sure we're providing the opportunities for a large swath of as many people as possible who are going to be using the form, the technologies, that they have time to hear about it, learn about it, voice their opinion, to make sure that we've looked at everything as an industry for everyone to understand, oh, this is going to be an easier adoption than I had anticipated because we've been able to answer their questions.
Great, thanks. Another question.
I just wanted to piggyback off that because Kelli, I know when we were chatting, yesterday, sort of just prepping and talking a little bit about some of these themes. And it's really interesting because I'm very excited about what you guys are doing on the tech side with the advisory panel and getting all of us together in a room to sort of push that forward, because I think you make a great point where it's, these changes happen and occur as they're needed, right? And the ability to make those changes to the form, to the templates, to the requirements it's important to be able to do it and flip the switch. If something becomes, a potential risk and we need to push that out, you need to be able to do it quicker, right? But it all starts with getting people together and getting people on the same technology, hopefully, is what we're pushing for. So getting people in a room to collaborate on how to get that standardized tech form, with technology, you can implement those faster, but it's exciting to us because this is really the first step for us in collaboration and kind of working ahead and working with all of the stakeholders that exist and all of the great lenders and servicers that you guys work with every day. So it's very exciting for us from the tech perspective to see that, because we know these things are very possible, but it takes time and it takes collaboration, and we're excited to be a part of that stuff with you guys. So anyway, just wanted to chime in on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're working on the marketing. So more information to come on the Technology Council, and the Tech Talk sessions will be open to all members of the MBA. So everyone who's dialed in today, keep a lookout in your mailboxes if you're an MBA member.
Yeah, Kelli, a question actually related specifically to that did come through on the front of the Tech Council. So seems like I think you addressed some of this just now in your statement, but the Tech Council, and I guess who you're looking to have participate not only as council members but also as attendees to see, to be involved. So any comments or feedback there on the council piece and how that is going to be assembled?
Absolutely. So we started with a core group of members and just people who have proactively reached out to us to say we would like the MBA to create a group for technology. And the group will focus on high-level strategic innovation direction for business solutions. So we'll have our regular, what we call the regular commercial member. And then we also are inviting our associate members and service providers. So it will be a cross collaboration conversation, and the format will be open to all MBA members, anyone who works with IT or has questions or issues. But what we will do is create tech talks, and we'll come in with a formulatic process of where will we be talking about something. One of the topics, as an example, that we might start with is ROI on AI. This was an idea of Reggie Booker's, and we will have some planned conversations, but then we'll do what we do with our other councils is a call for topics. So we do look to build the roster. We do want people to come in and participate, but these will also be the tech talk sessions will be advertised for anyone who's not on the roster. So in addition to the council members. So the ideal audience or participant could be someone who's actually programming. Obviously, anyone who is interested in technology. So all of you who have dialed into the webinar, you're definitely invited as an MBA member to join the council. But then we'll have opportunities to dive really deep. So your technicians, if you're building something and you're having a challenge with the crossover from closing to servicing, if there's technology challenges there or opportunities, then you'll have a forum of people who speak the same language. So if you speak IT, speak technology, this will be a council for you.
Great. Yeah, one last question that came through. I know we're a couple minutes past, but one last question that came through is regarding the application. So question was, is this application currently being used by any of the federal agencies such as HUD, USDA, DOD? Is the application currently deployed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? And Joe, I assume by the application, I think the references to the Varro platform.
That's a me question. Yeah. So indirectly, we do work with all of those industries, all of those industry participants. Right now we're doing our best to continue to drive the product forward so that we can be the standard in the industry when it comes to any of those agencies or other groups. But right now we do have a large client base, especially a lot of DUS lenders that utilize the platform to report on all of those loans that are associated with Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, HUD, all of that stuff. And they're delivering to those systems, but they're utilizing Varro to manage the workflow, manage the data, and manage the data interaction with their own internal core system. So the short answer is yes. The future answer is hopefully directly as well in the very near future.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, and I think that should probably be a wrap here. We're 3 minutes past. Appreciate those that were able to hang back here. Any parting comments, Joe, before we wrap here?
No, I thank Kelli. Thank you. This has been great. It's been great even over the last couple of days, kind of chatting about this stuff and getting this all together. So I absolutely appreciate your time. John, thanks for putting this together. Everybody, thank you for joining. We'll kick out, some post-webinar content. We'll be sharing the video, obviously as well. So if any of your team members or there's anyone else that you want to share this with, you'll have the ability to. And again, I think, the point of this was to showcase the industry challenges and sort of how we, Varro, and how the MBA are sort of, approaching and looking at some of these problems and some of the things that we've done and are doing to solve the problems and challenges. But again, if you're interested, if you think this tool sounds great, please reach out. We'd love to give you a demo, consult with you, chat with you. But at the end of the day, I hope that you all, have some takeaway from this and have some good perspective on where we're at and where we can get to with tech. So appreciate your time.